My husband hired a hitman to eliminate me and seize everything I worked for. Days later, I faked my own death because he never imagined what I was truly capable of or the revenge I planned for his betrayal. Naomi Vance stepped out of the towering glass building that housed her prestigious downtown law firm, carrying the glow of triumph. She had just secured a major corporate victory, another win that would boost her reputation and guarantee a hefty year-end bonus. Colleagues congratulated her with applause and hearty pats on the back, but their praise felt strangely hollow. Naomi wore her polished, professional smile, yet beneath it simmered an unease she couldn't shake. Her thoughts drifted to Julian, her husband, who had grown so distant in recent months that he felt more like a stranger sleeping under her roof than a partner. That evening, Naomi arrived home earlier than usual. Their elegant Buckhead brownstone was silent, almost too silent. The living room lights glowed warmly, but Julian's favorite armchair was empty. His sport coat lay tossed over the sofa, and a half-finished whiskey sat on the glass table. "Julian," she called sharply. A metallic clink sounded from the kitchen refrigerator door closing. Julian walked out, moments later, immaculate, as always. Perfectly pressed shirt hair slicked back with effortless precision. But something in his smile made Naomi's stomach tighten. "You're home early," he said lightly, though his eyes assessed her with a cool, unreadable interest. "I wrapped the case ahead of schedule. Thought we could have dinner together." Like old times, she dropped her briefcase onto a chair and slipped off her heels. Julian hesitated, as if weighing her motives, then nodded. "Sure, let me order something." Didn't have time to cook. While he pulled out his phone, Naomi watched him closely, torn between lingering affection and a creeping sense of dread. His recent emotional distance, the unexplained absences, the subtle lies, each one had chipped away at the trust that once anchored their marriage. Later, as they ate takeout sushi in front of the TV, Naomi made an attempt at normal conversation. "How's the Onyx Lounge? Busy lately?" she asked, pretending not to care too much. Julian kept his eyes on his plate. "Fine. People always want to go out. There's always something to celebrate. I'm glad. You've been so busy I barely see you anymore." Julian finally looked up, just for a flicker of a moment. A flicker of irritation crossed Julian's eyes before he hid it behind a smooth smile. "You know how it is. I'm working hard now so we can live comfortably later." Naomi nodded, though the explanation felt then too practiced. Dinner slipped into a heavy, uncomfortable silence. When Julian went to the bedroom, she lingered in the living room with her laptop, pretending to check emails, but her attention kept drifting toward his phone lying on the table, carelessly abandoned. She knew the passcode. There had been a time when sharing everything came naturally. Driven by a tightening knot of dread, she picked up the phone and scrolled through his recent messages. One thread caught her eye in exchange with a contact saved simply as P. The most recent message read, "All set for tomorrow. Remember, there can't be any mistakes." Naomi's pulse thudded in her ears. The message was cryptic, but the tone, urgent, deliberate, sent a chill through her. Julian was not a man who kept secrets. Not until recently. Footsteps approached. Naomi snapped the phone shut just as Julian stepped into the doorway. "Still working?" he asked, his tone calm but edged with something that sounded suspiciously like accusation. "Yeah, just a few things to finish up." She closed her laptop too quickly. Julian held her gaze for a moment, unreadable, then turned and walked back to the bedroom. Naomi stayed on the sofa, feeling the structure of her marriage beginning to fracture. A strange paranoia crept in, as if invisible eyes were tracking her every move. A few days later, the tension followed them to a dinner with close friends. On the surface, everything looked perfect, Julian charming and attentive, sliding effortlessly into conversation. Their friends kept praising how well they complemented each other, but Naomi couldn't ignore the way Julian avoided lingering eye contact with her, as if afraid she might see something he didn't want exposed. During a moment alone in the restroom, Chloe, her best friend, confronted her. Naomi, what's going on? You've been distant all night. Naomi hesitated, choosing her words carefully. I'm fine, just work stress. Chloe didn't look convinced. You can tell me anything. You know that, right? I know. Thanks, Chloe. Naomi forced a smile and returned to the table after dinner. Julian insisted on staying a little longer to talk to one of the men in the group. Naomi waited in the car, watching through the windshield. Their conversation was quiet but serious. The man slipped Julian an envelope, and Julian tucked it into the inside of his jacket with practiced ease. Back on the road, Naomi tried to keep her voice steady. What was that about? The envelope? Club business, Julian replied without looking at her. Nothing that concerns you. The coldness in his tone hit her like a splash of ice water. Sitting beside him, Naomi felt more alone than she ever had in her life. That night, while Julian slept peacefully, Naomi stayed awake in the living room, a glass of wine in hand, staring out at the Atlanta skyline. The city sparkled, indifferent to the storm unraveling inside her. Thoughts spun wildly in Naomi's mind. What was happening with Julian? What did those messages mean? The sense of danger pressed down on her, heavy and persistent. Yet she had no proof, only instinct. And instinct alone wouldn't save her. The sudden vibration of Julian's phone jolted her. This time, she didn't hesitate. She glanced at the screen. Another message from P flashed across it. Don't fail. Fear surged through her, sharp and suffocating. She locked the phone and set it down quickly. She couldn't confront Julian, not yet. She needed answers, real ones. Because deep down, a truth she didn't want to face was forming. Julian wasn't the man she thought she married. As the city moved through its sleepless rhythm, Naomi made a silent vow. She would protect herself, whatever it took. The man sleeping in the next room was no longer her partner. He was a mystery, wrapped in danger. The alarm clock blared the next morning, but Naomi was already awake. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the message echoed in her head. Tomorrow is the day. Don't fail. She turned her gaze toward Julian. He slept peacefully, untouched by the storm raging inside her. His calm made her feel even more betrayed. Trust, once the foundation of their marriage, was now dust slipping. Through her fingers, she needed to act. But the wrong move could cost her everything, even her life. At her office, Naomi tried to bury herself in work, but her assistant, Alina, noticed her unrest. You look exhausted. Everything okay at home? Just work stress. Nothing major, Naomi lied, forcing her voice into a steady rhythm. As soon as Alina left, Naomi let out a shaky breath. If a casual observer could see something was wrong, how much had Julian noticed? By late afternoon, after hours of pretending to review documents, Naomi made a decision that would change everything. She contacted a private investigator. Her years as an attorney had introduced her to discreet professionals, and she chose the one she trusted most. Darius Stone, a man known for his silence and precision. When he answered the phone, Naomi's voice trembled. I need your help. It's delicate and no one can know. Of course, Ms. Vance, Darius replied. Tell me when and where. That evening, Naomi met him in a secluded coffee shop. Wrapped in a scarf and dark glasses, she still feared being recognized. Darius sat across from her, calm and observant, notebook ready. What do you need me to investigate? Naomi hesitated. Saying the words would make everything real. It's my husband, she whispered. I think he's planning something against me. He's been acting strange, receiving suspicious messages. I need to know who he's meeting, what he's doing when he's not home. Darius's expression hardened as he wrote, I'll do everything I can, but you need to be prepared. Sometimes the truth is darker than you'd expect. A chill ran down Naomi's spine. Days later, Darius delivered his first report. She locked herself in her office before opening the envelope. Inside were photographs. Julian meeting with a large, scarred man in an alley behind the Onyx Lounge. They spoke closely, intensely, and shook hands in a way that looked disturbingly like the sealing of a deal. Darius included a name, Duke Miller. a man tied to an organized crime network known for extortion and disappearances. Naomi's stomach lurched. Duke had a history of kidnapping accusations. Never convicted, always suspected. And Julian was meeting him. She called Darius immediately. Why would my husband be talking to someone like him? I don't know yet, he replied. I intercepted another conversation. They discussed the plan. No specifics, but it's illegal and serious. Naomi felt her blood turn to ice. She'd dealt with criminals for years, but never imagined danger would find a way into her own bedroom. That night at dinner, she tried carefully to confront Julian. He noticed her silence and smirked. What's wrong? You're very quiet today. Naomi pushed gently. I'm just worried. You're at the club so much lately. I don't want you getting mixed up with dangerous people. Julian set his fork down and stared at her. His expression hardened, then softened just enough to mask it. Why would you say that? He asked, the edge of defensiveness unmistakable. Have you heard something? No. I just care about you. She forced a soft smile. I'm on your side. Julian returned, a smile, thin, lifeless. The conversation moved on, but Naomi felt it. He knew something was off. Maybe he suspected her. The breaking point came the next morning. Darius phoned her with urgency. We have a problem. Julian's suspicious. Duke was seen speaking to one of my men. That wasn't coincidence. Naomi's knees went weak. What does that mean? Am I in danger? I don't know yet. But if Julian thinks he's being watched, he may accelerate whatever he's planning. You need to be extremely careful. Consider going to the police. His warning echoed in Naomi's mind all day. At home, Julian was suddenly more attentive. Flowers, dinners, soft words. But Naomi saw through it. His kindness was a mask stretched over something rotten. That night, reviewing Darius's files again, she noticed a detail she had missed: substantial wire transfers Julian had made to an anonymous account. The dates aligned perfectly with his meetings with Duke. Her heartbeat quickened. Time was running out. Her life, her future, everything hung in the balance. And the man lying next to her was the greatest threat she had ever faced. What began as cryptic messages and secret meetings had now evolved into something far more sinister. At dawn, Naomi made a decision that would determine everything that came next. The night before, after hours of agonizing deliberation, Naomi made a decision she never imagined she would face. She could no longer handle this alone. The danger had become too real, too close. Her survival instinct finally pushed her to cross a line she once believed unthinkable. The next morning, with fear and determination warring inside her, she walked into the Atlanta Police Department's zone. Wool Precinct. Detective Marcus Jones, a seasoned officer known for his steady patience and sharp instincts, greeted her in his office. He recognized her immediately. Her name held weight in the legal world. But what struck him more was the tension radiating from her. Ms. Vance, how can I help you? He asked, motioning for her to sit. Naomi inhaled deeply. The words felt heavy on her tongue, dangerous to say out loud but necessary. I believe my husband is planning to kill me. The silence that followed pressed on her chest. Detective Jones studied her carefully, weighing her expression, her posture, her fear. Do you have evidence of this? He asked, tone calm but unyielding. Naomi reached into her bag and placed Darius's report, photographs, and the messages she had recovered from Julian's phone onto the desk. Jones examined each item slowly, nodding as he connected the pieces. This is serious, he finally said. Suspicions are correct. We need to be extremely cautious. One wrong move could tip him off. Are you willing to cooperate fully? I'll do whatever it takes to stop him, Naomi replied, voice trembling. But I need to be sure he can't escape if he realizes. I know. I don't know what he might do to me. That afternoon the plan began to form. Detective Jones assembled his team and they discussed strategies to gather undeniable evidence. that would hold up in court. Photos and messages were strong, but not enough. They needed a direct confirmation of Julian's intent. The solution: infiltrate an informant into Julian and Duke's circle. Naomi listened in silence as officers being at the center of a police operation felt surreal, but she knew her life depended on their success. What if they discover the informant? Naomi asked, unable to mask her fear. It's always a possibility, Jones admitted, but we're prepared. Our priority is your safety. His reassurance soothed her only slightly. Everything she once relied on, her home, her marriage, her husband, had become unstable ground. Days later, the police successfully planted their informant, Leon Leo Walker. With his rugged demeanor and talent for earning trust among dangerous men, he slipped into Duke's orbit effortlessly. His first recordings were devastating. In a captured conversation, Julian's voice was unmistakable, cold, calculated. Everything is ready. We just need her to stick to the routine. She doesn't suspect a thing. She's too naive. Duke's gruff voice responded, skeptical. Nothing can go wrong. If something blows back on us, we're finished. Trust me, Julian said. By the time anyone figures it out, it'll be too late. Naomi listened to the recording in Detective Jones's office, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Each word pierced her like a blade. The man who once whispered love into her ear now discussed her death as casually as a business decision. Detective Jones switched off the recorder. This is enough to proceed with the operation. But I need you to understand it will be dangerous. Are you sure you want to continue? Naomi lifted her gaze, eyes blazing with resolve. There's no turning back. If we don't stop him now, he will kill me. The biggest debate arose when the team proposed that Naomi participate in the operation. They needed her to engage Julian in conversation, subtle, indirect, hoping he would slip and reveal more details. It was risky, but it was the most effective way to capture indisputable evidence. The idea terrified her. Facing Julian, knowing what he intended, felt unbearable, but anger ignited inside her, fury born from betrayal. He saw her as disposable. She would prove him wrong. That evening, when Julian walked through the door, Naomi greeted him with a warm smile. She didn't feel the police had hidden a microphone inside her necklace. Every word would be transmitted to Detective Jones's team in real time. I've missed you, Julian. Feels like we've been distant lately, she said as she poured 2 glasses of wine. Julian looked slightly thrown off, but accepted the glass and settled on the sofa. I've been busy with work. You know how it is, Naomi said softly. So much time apart, I just want us to be okay. Julian studied her suspicion, flickering beneath his expression. We're fine, Naomi. You don't have anything to worry about. His voice lacked warmth, and she felt her pulse quicken. I trust you, she whispered. I always have, no matter what. Julian didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stared at her deeply, intensely, as if trying to uncover her motives. Later, when they moved to the bedroom, Julian's embrace tightened around her more forcefully than usual. A chill rippled down her spine. She didn't pull away. She couldn't. Any hesitation could cost her everything. Inside, she knew the worst was still ahead. She was ready. Her survival had become a battle, and she refused to lose. Hours later, the first phase of the operation would begin. The night was dark and still when Naomi arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Atlanta. Flashlights cut through the darkness as officers checked equipment, cameras, microphones, disguises, and props for the next part of the operation. Everything was in motion, and Naomi stood at the center of it all, preparing for the most dangerous night of her life.